Welcome, friends, fans, possibly family, to the Gluttonous Geek presents Munchies and Minis. This week I'm doing good. This is the third episode of the run. I've been doing the 52 weeks of D&D challenge here in my kitchen slash studio. What am I kidding? I work in here. It's practically my studio. And our first week, we started out with a challenge word of tavern, which we did an ale and cheddar soup, inspired by that word. It's on the blog over on thegluttonousgeek.com. If you want to check out the recipe for that, or at least the video for that, it is on there. Or if you want to check out my Patreon for the recipe cards. But beyond that, last week we went with the challenge word of map, and we made waffle maps with kind of forest and loot inspired toppings, the blackberry and rosemary syrup, and honey glazed cornflakes. This week's challenge word is intelligence. And guys, don't worry about this. I know you might be a little freaked out by the whole, well, for one, the sounds of renovation happening in my house right now. That was my husband possibly dropping a paint scraper, I think. I would laugh my head off if I'm actually right with that. But this week, the challenge word is intelligence. But I am prepared to do more of a work smarter, not harder approach. So we are going to make a recipe that is inspired by what class... Well, the class that I would say values the attribute of intelligence the most, which that would be the wizard class, wouldn't it? So I am making probably the first round of what will probably be multiple recipes over the next couple of weeks or possibly year, depending on the challenge word. I'm making spellbook sliders. So, this particular episode, we are making two forms of spellbook sliders, one based off of the School of Evocation, as in conjuring up the elements and bidding them to do your will. So we're talking about fire, water, air, and earth. Pardon, I've been drinking gin. And on the next one, we are going to be exploring the School of Necromancy with a slider that uses all ingredients that are dead in some way or decaying. I know that sounds gross, but trust me on this. We're talking about cured meats, blue cheese, mushrooms, things that you normally would eat without even thinking for a second that, oh, this is kind of dying a bit, isn't it? Well, I guess technically that would be every ingredient, but we are going to be raising the dead taste buds in your whatever. Yes, I know I'm so eloquent right now with these combination of flavors. So, first I'm just going to go ahead and explain what I'm going to be putting into each slider, so then we can get started on our recipe here. Evocation, it's going to be a, we're going to make sliders out of these rolls right here, and you'll see why I'm calling them spellbook sliders as we finish the recipe. And in the Evocation sliders, they're going to be ingredients that represent each particular element. So we have fire. We're going to be fire roasting a red pepper for that. And I'm going to be showing you two methods of doing that. First, on a gas stove top, if you happen to have one, and if you don't, which I understand they're not exactly standard issue anymore. I'm going to be showing you how to roast a red pepper in the oven. So that should be a little bit more compatible to the kitchen you probably have to work with. And then for water, I'm going to be using smoked salmon. For earth, we'll be using fresh basil leaves. And for air, I have a very it sounds weird, but lacy Havarti that I'm using. Normally I would go with Swiss, but since Swiss is a very mild flavor, I don't feel that it happens to stand up to the strength of the smoked salmon that we're going to be getting into this. So when I saw that the Havarti that I found at the grocery store was thrown across the room, apparently, full of holes, I'm just going, hey, that seems like the perfect representative of the element of air. So that is our Evocation spellbook slider. Well, our Necromancy spellbook slider, first, I'm going to be pickling a red onion. I've already done so earlier this week during Meal Prep Monday. So we already have our ingredient ready to go, but since you probably want to see the process and actually how easy it is, we're going to be covering that this week. Also, we've got some blue cheese to represent our mold. And then we have our cured meats, pastrami and salami. Now, curing is also a form of, I guess you would say, fermentation and decay. And that would happen to be, well, also preservation. So I guess you can say embalming a little bit. So that's why we're including those in our slider. And I believe, oh, right. And what kind of necromantic slider would be complete without fungus? Yep, we got some button mushrooms here. We're also going to be throwing that into our sliders. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into our meal prep. I'm just going to switch to our prep cam here. I'm first going to start out with slicing up my red onion. Now I'm just going to take that little sticker bit because it is inedible. And now that I'm thinking about it, I should have grabbed it earlier out of my fridge. I'm going to grab my prep bag. Or my stock bag. Now, a big tip, more gin. Yes, I do need more gin, DM Myers. Take a sip right now. Maybe that will slow down my speech some. So, red onion, stock bag. For those just joining us, whenever I happen to cut up any kind of vegetables or happen to, eat any animal flesh that comes right off a bone, I will put the animal bones and vegetable scraps into a freezer bag, which then I keep frozen in my freezer until it is full and I can make a homemade stock out of it. So that's the reason why I have this out. This was a chicken carcass that I left over from when I cooked for my game group on Sunday night. I made, well, the recipe is on the blog now. It's called Foxy's Victory Chicken. It's a dry braised whole chicken that I coated with a mix of dried dill and what's it called? Mint, garlic powder and all that. And then put it into a Dutch oven and dry braised it in the oven for about almost 2 hours. And when I say dry braise, as the juices were cooking out of the chicken, they slowly braise the meat to make it super tender. So if you're interested in checking out the recipe for that, that is also on my blog, thegluttonousgeek.com. The link is in the chat, so if you want to check that out. So as you see, I went ahead and sliced my onion in half. Just going to remove this papery bit here, and hopefully you can get a little cleaner than that. Now, unlike the videos I've shown with doing a dice on my onions, I am not going to keep the last bit of onion peel on here to hold on to when I get close to that edge, because I don't really need to. I'm just going to go ahead and peel that off and throw it into my stock bag. Just going to add a nice little bit of spiciness to my homemade chicken stock. Okay, so I've got a little papery bit on there, so I'm just going to go ahead and just peel off that whole layer. We've got enough onion to not really worry about that. And technically, since this is going into my stock bag, I'm not really wasting it. So, there we go. Alright, cool. So now I'm just going to show you a simple julienne. Julienne is a fancy name in cooking for I guess, strips or planks, or yeah, you'll get the picture when I show you. More gin. All right. So got our onion here, got the peel off. Now I am just going to cut along these radial ridges to get about 1/2-inch thick strips of onion. You can just kind of see what I'm doing there. And first, quick view of how to properly hold a chef's knife, or just any kitchen knife whatsoever. Do not hold it like this. This is unstable. Finger of your dominant hand under the blade, right here against the handle. Thumb here, curl your fingers comfortably around the handle, and adjust as necessary to comfortably hold but keep a firm yet relaxed grip. That, I guess, sounds a little contradictory. Just as long as you're not, squeezing the knife so hard that it hurts your hand, just hold it firmly. Without, you're pinching, but without really pinching. Try it a couple of times, you'll figure it out. So, now that I have my knife held properly, I am going to start on these ridges by inserting the corner of the knife into around where I want that edge to go. Going through and down to meet with the cutting board. So then I'm just going to draw it back and down in sort of an arc formation. And just keep doing that. And go only at a speed that is comfortable to you. There is no reason to speed this up. The biggest thing with cutting vegetables in your kitchen is creating a stable of a cutting environment as you possibly can. The biggest issue is safety. Precision comes with experience. So, as long as you are feeling stable, you are doing well. Don't worry about how fancy it is, unless, you have some achievement points you want to get. But as you see, went ahead and got all my ridges cut. And to complete that, all I have to do now is just slice off the root end. And I've got plenty of strips. So, I'm just going to go ahead and put that into my strainer for now. And while I'm thinking about it, I'm going to turn on my water kettle so it starts boiling. More gin. I haven't felt all that stable for years. Just kidding. I don't think any of us have. Aren't antidepressants great? Not endorsing the abuse of any kind of medication, but 32 years and then I find out I have anxiety disorder, and oh my gosh, is this what other people feel like? Huh. Granted, I was one of the lucky ones. It was just kind of fixing the chemical balance, but, there's no harm in ever getting help. Better living through chemicals? Yes, indeed. Okay, so, as I say it, as I'm drinking gin out of a tiki sippy cup. I'm mature. Right. Onions. So, right now I am back to julienning my onion, following along that radial edge, about 1/2 inch thick. Waiting for the water to boil. And as you see, I like to kind of rotate it some, so I have, I am very right-handed. I prefer to follow at least a similar movement pattern, so I know what I'm doing here. Now, the better you get at this, you're going to find the less you are going to cry while slicing onions. A lot of it is going to be getting used to that precision. The less cell damage you cause to an onion, the less it's going to make you cry. So, okay, we've got our strips again, and now I'm just going to slice off our root end and stick all of that into my strainer. Okay, storing them in the fridge helps. So the onions, yeah, I do need to get some kind of vegetable savers because otherwise they just get all humid, like all moist and gross in my fridge. So I like to keep it in my pantry, bottom shelf, door closed, and away from pretty much everything else. It tends to work for the most part. Also, another thing that helps with keeping tears away while slicing onions, coffee grounds. If you happen to have a can of coffee in your kitchen, which, come on, we're Americans. We live on our coffee. You do. Oh, as you're slicing onion, if you need to put that coffee can just sort of in the vicinity of your slicing area, as you're slicing and you're starting to feel kind of the tears come on, just start sniffing those coffee grounds. It'll help kind of clear that out some and take away a little bit of that harshness. So I'm just going to put this away closer to my sink for when I'm ready for it. Now, I am going to get, we're just going to go ahead and slice our mushrooms up while I'm thinking about it. Just go ahead and take care of those. So let's go back to our prep can. Mushrooms, it's just pretty simple. I mean, what I like to do normally is to cut them in half and then cut them like that. But we want thinner slices, so I'm just going to kind of hold it stable here and then draw the knife back in about quarter-inch slices. I'm planning on putting the equivalent of one mushroom on each sandwich here. Now, for those joining us, I am on the Gluttonous Geek presents Munchies Minis. I am presenting what I call Spellbook sliders. I am doing the 52 weeks of D&D challenge, 52 weeks of D&D fan art challenge. This week's challenge word is intelligence. So I am making some sliders that will look like spellbooks that are inspired by two different magic schools. Evocation, as in manipulating and conjuring the elements, and Necromancy, basically the magic of dead things. So for Evocation, I am doing a fire-roasted red pepper with smoked salmon, Havarti cheese, and fresh basil. For Necromancy, I am doing mushroom, pastrami, salami, blue cheese, and pickled red onion. All ingredients that have some kind of association with death. So I already have my mushrooms all sliced up, looking all pretty there. Just going to shove them off to the side for now. Now I'm going to focus on my red pepper. So, I have two here because I'm going to be showing you two different methods of roasting a red pepper. The first one is the one I'm about to show you on my stove cam. I'm just going to go ahead and switch it over there. As you can see, I have my burner lined with tinfoil here. That is to keep any juices from splattering too much as I do that. Just going to put that on there. Now, I know not all of you have gas stovetops, which is why I'm also going to show you a method of doing some roasted peppers with an oven. Granted, you're not going to get the whole fire-roasted taste, but I mean, you work with what you have as long as the flavor's about right, you're good. Though I will admit, it is kind of fun to light peppers on fire, isn't it? So, as that is going, my hot water has just finished boiling for my onion. So I'm just going to put my jar out here, and I'm going to go to my sink. I already have all the onion I sliced up earlier in a strainer. Got some boiling hot water. We're just going to par cook these onions so it helps break apart the cell structures a bit, so it's a little easier for my brining liquid to soak up into the onion. So, I'm going to turn the sink on right now so I don't burn my pipes. And just pour that on there gradually. Spread it around some to get all of those onions. It also helps soften them some, which will help as I'm trying to shove them all into a jar. Alright, that is poured over, and I'm just going to check on my red pepper. It is definitely charring up some, so I'm just going to take my tongs. Ain't that pretty? Okay. Just going to let that do its thing. Cool. Alright, so we are back to our tripod. I'm going to my prep can. Big jar. Big clean jar. I see. I'm glad you're going along with me on this. Now onions. Very hot onions. And tongs. Tongs are good. Just gonna start dropping those in there. Okay, that pepper seems to be bubbling up some. I will admit I've never actually done this and this at the same exact time, so I am going to be checking periodically to make sure that I don't burn that pepper to a crisp or burn my house down. That would be bad. Okay. And you know, soon these onions are going to be cool enough to just kind of shove them in there with my hands. Nothing so ceremonial or sanctimonious, or I'm not even sure if that's the right word for this. What can I say? Okay, just gonna check on that pepper. Stove cam. All right. Okay, just gonna shift sides on there and go back to my onions. It's going all over the place. You know what? Screw it. This is going in with my hands because I am a gross, disgusting human being. I mean, that is part of being the human race, right? I mean, when you're an elf, you do everything prettily. When you're a halfling, you do everything drunkenly. When you're a human, you do everything grossly. Or is that orc? I don't know. Anyway. And I will admit, I'm actually going a little bit by sound of that pepper as I'm going along. So it's crackling, and I'm not going to worry too much about that because I also have tinfoil lining my, what's it called? My stovetop. So it's not going to splatter too much, but I should just go ahead and check. Stove. Oh yeah. And check that out. That's looking pretty, isn't it? Sanctimonious onions. Yes, I guess I make up words. Well, not I make up words, I just make up terms. That's not the right term for it. I mean, you would hardly think I'm an English major, would you? All right. So, onions in the jar. Come on. Come on. All right. Now this is where you get a little less, well, admittedly you get even more gross. Now I need all these onions to fit into this jar. They will fit, trust me. It just looks kind of gross. Well, I mean, it's going to all shift downwards anyway until you see what I'm about to do. And I'm kicking myself because I would have already put some kosher salt in there, but I'm hearing my pepper crying for attention, so I'm just going to give that a little love. Get that little mist spot there. Okay, here we go. Back to our onions. tell you what, I'm just going to go ahead and wash all this onion juice off my hands. So, if I had actually been reading what the heck I was doing that I had written earlier for this recipe, I would have put a couple pinches of kosher salt into my jar already. I didn't do that, but no big deal. I mean, and you'll see why in just a minute. But while I'm thinking about that, I'm just going to go ahead and turn my oven on to a low broil and get that started for what I do with this next red pepper. Now, jar of onions, and my kosher salt's behind me. Let's do that. A couple pinches of kosher salt. Well, not 3 or 4 will do it. The salt will help in the pickling process. Now I've got some salt in there. Just got some red wine vinegar. And you're going to be pouring in what will equate to about, say, I guess half a cup. But really you just want to be able to fill the jar and get all of those nooks and crannies. This is part way empty from the first batch of pickled red onion that I did earlier this week. Luckily, it is super cheap at most grocery stores, so, especially if you get store brand. All right, I'm just going to pour in some more there till I have about full up and cover my onions. And now I'm just going to seal that jar up and check on my pepper. Oh yeah. Haha. Seal the jar up and just shake it. Shake that sucker like crazy. Try to dissolve the kosher salt that you just put in to that jar. Okay. That is probably dissolved because kosher salt dissolves rather quickly, thank goodness. Alright, so as you can see, it's still kind of purple and white. Nothing's absorbed yet. This is what you're going to start out with. I'm just going to throw this in the fridge now. Actually, I think I'm going to throw a little bit more, pour a little bit more red wine vinegar into that because that got shifted around some. So I'm just going to do that. Now, seal it up and put it in my fridge. So what you're going to get after all your labor, about at least 2 days, I started this batch about 2 days ago, is this stuff. These are pickled red onions that I made about 2 days ago, and as you can see, they've soaked up the red wine vinegar very nicely. They're considerably softer. And they're flat out delicious. So, I have that on hand for our sliders. Now I'm just going to check on that red pepper because I'm starting to smell it now. Just going to, let's see here. I think we got, cool. All right. That's still got some charring left to do. So let's switch back to our prep cam and work on this second pepper here. So now, I'm just going to slice this in half and remove my stem and seeds. Very carefully. Get those little ribs out there too. Just to make it easier for myself. Now I will stress the importance of having a sharp knife while doing this. So as you can see, I just did a little bit of maneuvering, but since my knife is sharp, I don't have to worry about that. So that is sliced up. I already have a foil-lined cookie sheet here, and I'm just going to give that a quick spray of cooking spray. before I put that on my baking sheet, and sticking that under the broiler for a total of about 15 minutes, but I'm going to rotate the pan halfway through. So that's about 6 minutes. Not quite, but okay, yeah. That pepper is definitely ready to get off the stovetop, I think. See how we're doing? Oh yeah. Check that out. That is covered with charred skin. So, got my pepper here. And now I'm going to need to steam all that burned skin off my pepper. So I've got a paper lunch bag here. I'm going to shove that in there. And let that steam off during this whole process. So, let that go. Do its thing. And I think that is all of the vegetables I need to prep for this dish. So I can go ahead and start on my bread and proteins. I'm just going to throw my onion and pepper scraps into my stock bag. And I think that is everything that's going to go in the stock bag. So I'm just going to go ahead and seal that up. And shove it in the freezer. Cool. More gin. I'm just going to give a quick wipe down to my prep board. Just get that cleaned off some. And now I'm just going to go ahead and slice up my bread. Now the key here, these are fairly large dinner rolls, or I guess you'd call them hamburger rolls. As you can see, they're about, I would call that about a 3.5 to 4 inch diameter. The thing is with these being Spellbook sliders is I want to slice these so it looks like a Spellbook. So I'm going to take the most intact edge here. This is going to be the spine of my Spellbook. So what I want to do then is I take my bread knife here and hold it properly, dominant finger here, thumb here, comfortably around, is kind of hold my knife parallel to the cutting board as I slice into it. And I want to keep about at least a 1/2 inch of thickness on this spine side of my Spellbook slider. So just kind of slice into that gently. Okay. And I think I still have that intact, as you can see. So I'm just going to do that with the rest of my rolls while I wait for my other peppers to continue roasting. I'm just going to go ahead and do that with the next one. And like I said, go about as slowly as you feel comfortable going. Once again, intact edge is the spine of your book. And you want to keep that about a 1/2 inch intact. And this process goes fairly quickly. That is if you have a sharp bread knife. Sharp knives, they'll save your life and your meal. So, all right, intact edge, that's the spine of my book. Slicing again. Okay. So how's everyone's week going so far? I mean, mine's actually gone pretty quickly. And I've released a blog post already. Okay, I've got 2 intact edges on there. Let's go with the one that, this looks the sturdiest. Let's go with that edge. Just making sort of a weird border wall with my rolls here. You know, if this could be just the border wall for everything, I would be okay with building a wall as long as it was made of delicious bread. Until, it started rotting, but what can you do? I'm just going to go ahead and toss that onto my prep dish. Let's see. DM Myers got the first blog post about the terrain up with the second coming tonight. Excellent. Great job, dude. I am so glad to hear about one of my content creator friends taking the next step, because I can definitely relate. Okay, so I got ahead and got my bread sliced up. Now I just need to go ahead and slice up my cheese. But I hear, let's see, that would be my words. They fail me. Red peppers. Ready to be... Yeah, they definitely need to be broiled longer. Let's switch those around. I may have to put it onto a high broil. Let's go with another 7 minutes and see if that does it. Okay, so blue cheese. Now, I have a smokehouse blue cheese that I found at Kroger this week. Definitely on sale. That is part of the reason buying it. Feel free to use slabs of blue cheese for this recipe, or if you would rather use blue cheese crumbles because they're cheaper where you're shopping, that's perfectly fine. Instead of 4 slabs of this, you'll just need 4 tablespoons. Tablespoon on each sandwich, you should be good. Or, a little bit more if you like blue cheese. I'm one of those people who really likes blue cheese, so up to you. All right, I'm just gonna switch up my prep board some. So whenever I deal with any kind of animal proteins, I prefer to have a different surface, one that I can throw into the dishwasher, preferably. So I'm just going to switch to a plastic cutting board here. Go ahead and get that plastic off there. And try not to eat this whole thing as I'm slicing it for these sandwiches. So for those just joining us, this is Munchies Minis, which is a live Dungeons & Dragons and tabletop-inspired live cooking demonstration and painting demonstration, where I will make a tabletop or RPG-inspired snack, and then work on painting a miniature. Okay, so this stuff's kind of crumbling pretty well. But, there's a reason why they call it Smokehouse Blue. It tastes like smoked foods. I love smoked foods, so hey. So tonight I am following the 52 Weeks of D&D Fan Art Challenge. First week, about 2 weeks ago, I did the Challenge Word Tavern with a cheddar and ale soup, which you can find on my blog, thegluttonousgeek.com. Last week, I took on the challenge word map with waffle edible dungeon maps with thematic toppings. And this week's theme is intelligence. So I decided to make essentially paninis that look like spellbooks. So spellbook sliders. And the 2 recipes I'm making today are inspired by the schools of Evocation and Necromancy schools. For Evocation, I'm making a fire-roasted red pepper with smoked salmon, Havarti cheese, and basil sandwich, all ingredients that represent the 4 elemental planes in D&D. Or the basic ones, anyway. And Necromancy, I am using ingredients that are all involved in sort of a decay process before they're served, which I know sounds gross, but we're talking blue cheese, like, mold. Mushrooms, pickled red onion, and salami and pastrami, which are both cured meats, which involve sort of a fermentation process. I'm not sure if that's the right word for it. I'll Google it later. So, I've definitely carved up more than 4 tablespoons of blue cheese. I'm not disappointed with myself. I love blue cheese. I just feel bad for my knife I'm going to have to clean later. Alright, got our blue cheese. I think that's the only protein I'm going to be carving up. Now I'm just going to check real quick on my red pepper, see how that is roasting up. Yeah, I'm definitely going to have to put that on a high broil. Okay. Switch that up and then switch the timer to about 7 minutes. See how we're doing after that. Low broil is definitely not hot enough for this as I work on it. Cool. So, since I'm currently just working on my, waiting for my red pepper to roast, guess I can go ahead and see if the skin on the fire roasted red pepper came off, and work on that some, and hopefully not eat all the cheese while I'm at it. All right. I know I'm a weirdo, but dang it, it's delicious. Okay. So, red pepper. As you can see, I have charred this thing to a crisp. So I'm just going to kind of rub this charred bits off, which is the skin of the pepper. It's still very hot, so I'm just being careful as I go. I mean, I do like a little bit of charred flavor, so I might keep a little bit on. But this is also to make it considerably softer to go into our paninis. So, just see how that just sort of glides right off of there? Beautiful, isn't it? Okay. But yeah, if you have your pepper charred enough, it'll just slide right off. Okay. Cool. Alright, that is most of my char. I'm going to keep a little bit on there because it looks a little bit like a fire elemental. And now that I have that, I should probably clean my knife off, shouldn't I? Especially since the blue cheese is not going on that sandwich. Can't have that flavor contamination. So, just give a quick wash to my knife. And always remember to hand wash your knives. If you don't, your knives will if you decide to throw your knives into a dishwasher, they will dull, and dull knives will slice your fingers off. Don't do that. So, dry that off. Okay. Now, okay. So now that I've got that all peeled off, I'm just gonna check on my. Oh yeah, that's still going. All right. Now I just want to get the stem and seeds out of here, so I am going to catch up where I was. Right. Just going to first slice that in half. Drain out this juice on the bag of char. And carefully slice that stem out. Alright, I could have put that in my stock bag. Okay, well, I'll get that in a second. Alright. And cut that. Sort of trim that into some flat panels. So there's a panel of roasted red pepper for one of our sliders. And just do that. Slicing it in half is going to make it a little easier for me to sort of, I guess, shave the pepper, so to speak, this way, to get those little extra bits off. Awesome. So I've got my 4 panels to work with, which I'm going to use for this particular slider. So we're also not wasting time, too. Let me just grab my stock bag because I forgot completely about that. And you know, I'm a big supporter of waste not, want not on my show. So that is going to make a delightful chicken stock. as long as I remember to not feed it to anyone with a bell pepper allergy. Okay, so got our red pepper. Just gonna check on my other red pepper. See how we're doing. Yeah, that's still roasting. The only trouble with roasted red peppers is they do take a while to do so in the oven. While, you know, you can just light them on fire like this. But, yeah. Do what you can with what you have. Do not take this as an order from me to go out and get yourself an expensive gas stovetop. I mean, cooking really should not just be... I know this sounds incredibly funny saying this in this particular day and age, but cooking should not be something that's only afforded to the wealthy, which is incredibly strange considering how far we've come culturally from that, because it used to be that the wealthy did not cook, and now they do cook. We're living in a crazy, upside-down world, what can I say? So, right. Okay, how are we doing on those peppers? Because I got the... Ooh, yeah, I think that definitely needs another 6 minutes. So I'm just going to twirl that around. Twirly, twirly, twirl. Well, I go ahead and get started on some of these the elemental slider. So, now that I have all my ingredients essentially together for my evocation sliders, I'm going to go ahead and start assembling. I'm going to start assembling them. I mean, you really only need one bell pepper for them. I just decided to demonstrate with 2 so you can see how they work for both. So, no. Right. I swear we'll get around to this at some point. Okay, so I'm just going to start making my stacks of pages, so to speak, for my spellbook sliders. Starting out with my red pepper slices. Then I am going to follow that up with some smoked salmon, which I believe should already be sliced up. Possibly, maybe. Perhaps. Kind of. Let's go ahead and... Oh, good, they tears easily. So, I'm just going to top that with some smoked salmon. A little bit more. I really like smoked salmon. Okay. All right. Now, I'm going to follow that up with some, fresh basil. About 1 to 3 leaves should do it, depending on the size of your basil. I mean, these things came off of my little aeroponic herb garden plant. This stuff came from the store. So it's really up to you on how much basil you want on your sandwich. I'm just going full tilt because I love basil. I love all the ingredients I'm putting on these things today, so. Okay. So now I've got fresh basil on there. Just going to top it up with my cheese, which for the element of air we have Havarti slices, which is glorious holes on there. I would have gone with Swiss, but you know, the trouble with Swiss is that it just tends to not be all that intensely flavorful. So that's why I went with Havarti instead. And it goes a little bit better with the salmon. So, well, I have got my stacks going. first I'm going to check on that other red pepper. So, you know, I don't burn my house down, because that would be helpful. Dang, this is really making me hungry. Well, that's kind of the point, Daniel. I mean, you kind of eat these. I mean, that's kind of how it works. Right, so, got my stacks. And now I'm just going to feed that gently into a roll. Do that with every one of them. But wait, there's more. Of course, you know, there will be more once I happen to finish assembling these particular sliders. Okay, right. We got our Evocation sliders ready to go. So, with that, first I'm just going to check my pepper real quick. How destroyed are you? You're kind of destroyed. You're destroyed enough. I'll take you out. And actually remember to use a pot holder while doing so. Okay. I'm going to switch to my stove cam so you can see how those oven roasted peppers are looking right now. As you can see, they're looking pretty charred. So just like I did with the fire roasted pepper, I'm just going to go ahead and stick them into my bag, into my paper lunch sack, to let those charred skins steam off my pepper. I'm just going to keep them in there because you've already seen me take the skin off a pepper. They're good to go. So we're just going to skip to the next part, which is making some sliders and snack on some cheese while I'm at it. Right. It's been a long day. I'm hungry. I mean, it's almost 8 p.m. here. That means I'm making some good time. Excellent. So, now that I have those sliders assembled, I think I might as well just go ahead and assemble my Necromancy sliders. So I'm just gonna stick these on a plate for now until we finish assembling our other school of magic. So, as you already know, we've just made up our Evocation. Now it's time to make up our Necromancy sliders. So we're going to need our sliced mushrooms, pickled red onion, blue cheese, provided that I have enough room on my countertop for it. I do! Yay! Excellent. Excellent well. Let's see how many Ren Fairisms I go into. It's like, you know, you're a Renaissance Festival. Ow. Former cast member when you start using the King's English randomly in your speech patterns. So, yes. And to kind of top off all of our theme of death and decay, we got some pastrami and salami. Both cured meats. Both have gone through a little bit of a fermentation and decay process. Well, embalming, I guess. A little bit of everything to make them delicious. I mean, what can I say? We humans like to eat dead things. I mean, it's true. We like to eat dead things. Do you like to eat living things? I didn't think so. So, got my pastrami. Flip my page to see what I'm doing here. And now we just make up 4 stacks once again. Homer Simpson drooling, dead things, yeah. Dead things. Okay, so first I am going to start off with my salami. Provided that it'll open for me. Come on, you're making me look bad. All right. So, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm just going to stick 2 slices on there because I like salami. And there's a ton of it, so why not? All right, salami first. Then I'm going to follow them up with some sliced mushrooms. I mean, feel free to cook your mushrooms if you want to, but I didn't really feel like it. I mean, I'm using button mushrooms for this particular meal. Now, if you want something that'll definitely kick you in the face with flavor, get some shiitake mushrooms if you can find them. Shiitake mushrooms taste significantly, well, they taste like beef. I mean, they taste meaty even when they're raw. So I've eaten those things raw with Swiss cheese before, and it's fantastic. Or cheddar. Oh. I'm just making Homer Simpson noises while I'm at it. Okay, I know I sliced up 4 mushrooms. You're probably good with 2 or 3. Or make duxelles. Oh, yeah. I would make duxelles, but in this particular realm, that would probably take another 15 to 20 minutes for me to do, so we're just going to keep it simple tonight with raw mushroom. Like I said, it's entirely up to you whether or not you want to cook this or not. Though I imagine it's much more easy to stack up if they're raw. Okay. And now that we have our mushrooms on there, I'm just going to top that off with some pickled red onion. Just going to put a kind of healthy amount. Oh, I got some fresh dill. Well, I guess it's pickled dill in there. That should be tasty. Yeah, if you have any fresh herbs that you want to throw into your mix when you pickle this onion, have at it. I mean, our little aeropod gardens has been going absolutely nuts with our dill and Thai basil, so I threw in some fresh dill 2 days ago when I made these. I've been using it in everything, honestly, because I mean, I trimmed it about 2 days ago. It's still overgrown. Okay, so I mean, that's about roughly a half a cup of pickled red onion total, with about I want to say about 1/8 of a cup on each stack. So that's good. And now I'm just going to add some blue cheese to that. And add however much you want, however much you think is going to fit into your sandwich. So now what I'm really just trying to build right now are stacks that I can put into our rolls easily without falling apart, and something that's going to meld well with the flavors, but also so it won't fall apart as we're cooking it on our panini press and between 2 skillets. So, okay, that's looking good. Getting blue cheese all over myself, but I am not complaining, because it's just going to be a snacrifice for myself. Snacrifice upon the altar of the Gluttonous Geek. It's a delicious snacrifice. Okay. Right. Towel. Ha towel. Right. Okay, so now we've got our blue cheese on there. I am just going now to finish off with some pastrami. And once again, put as much as you want on there, as long as it'll fit inside of your sandwich. It doesn't have to be perfect, because as you'll see as we finish up, I'm going to make this look awesome. At least I'm going to try to make this look like Spellbooks once I'm finished. So I'm just going to throw 2 slices of pastrami on each to make that also as stable as I possibly can as I shove that whole stack into a bun. Which, I know, giggity, right? Okay. So, piles of meat. Alright, we got our buns slightly. And now, as you can see, having the cured meats on each side keeps it from falling apart. Well, falling apart too much, obviously, as I put these together. See? So, there's one. Come on. Two. Three. And don't fall apart on me. 4. Excellent. Okay. Right. So now that those are assembled, I'm just going to put them on my prep plate. And we're going to start up our panini press. And like I said, I'm going to show you 2 ways of doing this because, you know, chances are you're not going to have a panini press. I mean, yes, I know that they were incredibly popular during the early 2000s, but I understand not everyone's kitchen has room for unitaskers like a panini press. So, as I heat up my panini press, I am also going to heat up a skillet. As I switch to my stove can here. Are you cool enough to move, Mr. Baking Sheet? No, you're not? Okay, you can sit there. Just go ahead and heat my skillet up to high. I mean, feel free to use a grill pan if you want, or just a standard non-stick skillet. I like to use cast iron just because it lives out on my, stovetop. I just enjoy it. I mean, if you know how to work cast iron, you never have to worry about washing it all that much. Well, you do. I mean, you wash it every single time, but it is significantly easier to clean than it is most of your other cookware. I know it doesn't seem like that, but the more you use it, the easier it is to clean, the easier it is to use. So I'm just going to let that get hot. My panini press is also getting hot, which I will show as soon as I dry my hands here. Since I only have one stove cam, I'm just going to be swiveling around there to do that. So you're probably thinking, okay, I hear you, a skillet. What are you going to do with that? Well, the other way of doing pressed sandwiches, other than using a panini press, is to put your sandwich on your skillet and then weigh it down with something heavy, like all these other sandwiches. No, I'm kidding. This is a pie plate that I like to use for whenever I do stovetop smoking, which if you are interested in figuring out how to do any kind of stovetop smoking, I have a recent smoked salmon recipe that I did on my blog at thegluttonousgeek.com. You can check that out in the chat. It's a cheap pie plate. It came with the house. So I just like to use it for other applications that are not pies. So in this particular case, it would be... Oh, that panini press is actually ready, so I'm going to go ahead and switch this over to my panini press. Get that wire out of the way. Okay. That's definitely hot enough. So, come on. So I remember how to use this thing, because that's another thing about unitaskers. You're not always going to remember to use it. So, just going to go ahead and put one of each on this panini press. And now, as far back as I can. And I'm just going to let that do its thing. Kind of squeeze it down some. Cool. And now I'm just going to go ahead and check the temperature of my pan. I'm switching it over. Because, I mean, do you really just need to watch a panini press going? I didn't think so. So, it's kind of hot. I do kind of a cold water test on a hot pan. Yeah, that seems hot enough. So, I'm just going to go ahead and put, once again, one of each on my skillet. And now I have a free pipe plate. Put that on top. And then put something heavy on top, which in this case is going to be my whetstone. Is it perfect? Maybe. Now, I also have another skillet I can throw in. Or I could just even possibly use a stock pot that I have for such occasions. Well, rather I have it for smoking occasions and, you know, making stock when I'm not making stock in the crock pot. That is not the right jar to... right. This is the correct jar lid. Where did this jar lid come from? Famous last words in the Gluttonous Geeks channel. Okay, so how are we doing? Is that pressing down? It could press down a bit harder, so... I could do better than that. Stock pot, come to my rescue. Haha. And whetstone. Okay. That is still going. Just let that continue to press and cook. It is time for more gin, I think. Okay. All right. So I've gotten one side pressed down. Now I just want to flip these because I don't have the... Oh, yeah, that's looking a bit burnt. I don't have the luxury, unfortunately, of a top element that's hot. So I'm going to throw that in there too, to press again, see how our other sandwiches are doing. Actually, I think our other sandwiches are good to go. I mean, that is the advantage of a panini press, admittedly. So, I'm just going to go ahead and remove those to our cutting board, our prep cam here. There's one of our Necromancy books, and here is one of our Evocation books. So, now that I have that, I'm just going to get the next round of sandwiches started. Check on our stovetop ones. Oh yeah, I would say that's ready. And now I'm just going to move those to our prep station. Again. Okay, so as you can see, these definitely have more environment than on the charred environment. Got a little bit of crispy cheese, which is going to taste amazing. But you can kind of see the difference you're going to get with the panini press or just a flat skillet. So let's just see how those are doing. Get that pressed down again. And move our last two sandwiches to our kind of smoking stovetop here. All right. Let's do the thing. Okay. Something heavy, as you see here, I'm using a stock pot. And it often helps to have something heavier holding that down. So, whetstone. And just let that press and melt. Let's see how we doing on these paninis. A little bit longer. Let them press some. So as that's going on, let's go ahead and make these Spellbook sliders look like Spellbooks. So, the last thing I'm going to do is just trim my sides with a chef's knife. And oh look, it's kind of a spellbook. Necromancy. Save your scraps because the scraps are delicious. And I'm just going to check on that stove because that's going a little faster than I expected. Yep, that is, it's going. Come on. I'm guessing that my paninis are done. Yeah, they're done enough. Let's just... All right. I would say that those are done. At least done enough for my liking. So, just move that to our cutting prep board. Okay, and turn that all safely off. Just get our scraps on. There we are. Ah, right. I have a sandwich on the panini grill that needs to be taken off. Okay, so just unplug that sucker. Clean it off later at a different time. And go back to my prep board where I am still slicing up sandwiches. Okay, so once again, just gonna slice off that edge there on our Evocation Spellbook slider. Aha, there you go. And just kind of group them together for my pictures in a little bit. So, yes, there you go. Spellbook sliders. Essentially, paninis that are inspired by D&D Schools of Magic. Something that, you know, with a little preparation is super easy to throw together for your adventuring party. With ingredients that, you know, if you, like I said, if you prep ahead of time, you can make even more. I mean, this recipe that I have available for my, well, you can watch this video more and more, like, as many times as you like. I have a YouTube channel where I'll be posting all of these finished recipes. But I also have on my Patreon channel recipe cards that are printable and convenient. So if you want to check that out, you can go to my Patreon. It's at the Kitchen Twitch level or higher. Or if you just like this particular week's recipe but don't really want to quite commit to everything, you can also hit up my Ko-Fi, where I will have that available for the rest of the week. So, actually, I think I'm liking the look of these pan-pressed ones a little better. It's kind of sort of a rusted look to it. You know, these books have seen some, they've seen some shit. Okay, so that was all of my sandwiches. Let's go ahead and see how they look like all plated. Boom, that's what they look like plated. The picture will look pretty, I promise, tomorrow when I post it up to the blog. But for now, you just have a stack of sandwiches that are delicious. So, now I'm going to be moving into my mini painting part of my episode. I'm going to be taking a quick 5-minute break to get everything moved over and, I guess, make things look a little bit better in here. And now we're going to be adding on some highlights and probably some shades onto our bugbear sorcerer lady, Glurkilda the Glorious. So if you just want to kind of stand back and enjoy yourself, maybe head to the bathroom, get yourself some gin while I start our timer here. We will be right back. Thank you so much for joining us. Check back within 5 minutes.